picking up where we left off again, doctors and their organizations. Physicians' organizations should declare that it's against their patients' interests that physicians participate in meetings or educational events sponsored by the industry, accept visits from drug salespeople, or accept donations from industry, including free travel and free samples of drugs, the delivery of which should be prohibited by law, as this has clear negative consequences for patients. Some universities and hospitals have introduced policies that prevent this from occurring. For many years, the Danish Medical Association has refused to offer industry-sponsored education to its members. Doctors are de-learning their bad habits, but slowly. A study of 105 residents at a university-based international medicine residency program showed that 61% believed that contact with industry didn't influence their own prescribing, while only 16% believed that other physicians were similarly unaffected. Jerome Cassiere considers it one of the greatest scandals of our time that physicians are not to be held to the standards of journalists, attorneys, and other professionals. Physicians should live up to the same rules that apply to journalists. A journalist a journalist who writes press releases for Pfizer to supplement her income will not be allowed to write a story for the New York Times about new drugs for treating impotence. Why have we accepted that this rule somehow shouldn't apply to doctors? Doctors' relationships with Big Pharma don't even live up to the criteria for wine testing in the Wall Street Journal. Although doctors' choice of drugs, or no drugs at all, is far more important for people's health than the type of wine they drink. We do not accept free wine, free trips, or free meals. We taste wines, blind unless noted otherwise. We believe wines should speak for themselves, so should drugs. Doctors suffer from delusion that their financial relationships with industry can be managed, and numerous foolish so-called ethical guidelines have been constructed which often speak about some cash amount below which there should be no problem. This is self-serving rationalization. The relationships cannot be managed, they should be avoided. Some sort of contact with the industry is of course needed, for example, in relation to conducting important trials, but the knee-jerk reaction that this must involve exchange of financial benefits is simply wrong. Similarly, if a doctor is desperate to sit at a company's advisory board or to give good advice in other ways, it can be done for free. It takes two to tango. And what we need more than anything else is for doctors to stay clean and say no to the money. It should be illegal in all countries, like it is in Denmark, for a doctor to help a company in its marketing, although this is what many doctors actually do when they consult for the industry. Sit on an advisory board or educate, also in Denmark. We have a very long way to go. A U.S. survey found that a staggering 94%, a broad range of physicians, had interacted with the drug industry within the last year. More of these interactions involved receiving food in the workplace, 83%, and drug samples, and 28% had been paid for consulting, lectures, or enrolling patients in studies. The extent of these interactions are likely underestimated, as social desirability bias may have caused people to underreport what may be viewed as negative, as the survey wasn't anonymous. When the American Medical Association in 2001 launched a campaign to convince physicians not to accept gifts from the industry, the campaign was funded by Eli Lilly, Bayer, GlaxoSmithKline, AstraZeneca, Merck, Pfizer, and Wyeth Arist. including some of the worst companies on the earth whose ruthless actions have led to the deaths of thousands of patients. The association itself continued to accept gifts when, in 2009, U.S. Senator Charles Grassley asked for financial information from 33 professionals, associations, and groups that conduct research or promote disease awareness. The American Medical Association reported that 16 drug, device, and communications companies denoted nearly $5 million in 2007, continuing medical education programs and communication conferences. It didn't respond to an inquiry by the BMJ regarding the issues. Manufacturers provided more than half of the total funding of the North American Spine Society and nearly half of the funding of the Heart Rhythm Society and the American Academy of Allergy, Asthma, and Immunology. Jerome Cassieri has given many egregious examples of academic prostitution in specialist societies. Restricted uneducational grants. There is a widespread form of collaboration between academia and industry that doesn't require approval from an authority. It goes under various names, and here is an example. A 2007 paper surveying U.S. department chairs of medicine and psychiatry reported that 67% of them had received discretionary funds from industry within the last year. This is likely an underestimate, as the survey was not anonymous. The donations to department chairs and other decision makers are sometimes called unrestricted educational grants, although, as a witty person once put it, they are in reality restricted uneducational grants, as their purpose is to buy doctors. In one case, such a grant was used for paying for a doctor's swimming pool. Industry is very careful about how it spends shareholders' money, and if it gives away some, it is not a sudden outburst of altruism because it expects more in return than it spends. The purpose of discretionary funds, which the department may use for research, education, or whatever its chair deems relevant, is to buy loyalty, and it works. Department chairs know all too well that if they start using cheap generics instead of the doctor's expensive products, the funding stream will dry out, and the industry knows that if someone at the department finds serious harm with one of the company's drugs, the department chair will be more tempted to protect the drug than the whistleblower. It's unbelievable that doctors cannot see that acceptance of money with no strings attached is corruption. I believe everybody else can. Academic institutions should not accept financial support from industry. We are moving in the right direction, but much too slowly and timidly. In 2009, the Association of Medical Colleges urged that all medical schools and teaching hospitals to adopt policies prohibiting physicians, faculty, or staff members, residents, and students from accepting any industry gifts, including industry-supplied food and meals unrelated to accredited continuing medical education programs. The same year, the U.S. Institute of Medicine went one step further. It suggested that doctors should decline all gifts from industry, including meals. That product promotion among doctors by drug and device companies should be virtually eliminated. That doctors should refuse to participate in activities and publications where contents are controlled by the industry, and that professionals with conflicts of interest should not participate in writing practice guidelines. In 2012, the American Medical Association at last changed its pro-industry position and announced that, when possible, CME activities should be developed without industry support and without participation of teachers or program planners who have financial interests in the subject matter. The Next step will be to close the next step will be to close the foolish loophole that is a carte blanche to do business as usual. It is always possible to avoid industry influence. Currently, we have a culture among doctors where accepting industry largesse and accepting authoring highly flawed industry papers is not a career impediment. In fact, it seems to advance people's careers as they get many more publications and become known speakers. We need to reverse this culture into one of professional ostracism so that such a person would no longer show their face in places where their academic colleagues gathered. Ghostwritten articles should be seen as scientific fraud, and the honorary authors should be treated like students who sign their names to papers they buy on the internet. There should be substantial fines for concealing ghost authorship, as it erodes the trust that is so fundamental in medical publishing. Legislation is needed to hold physicians accountable when they contribute to illegal marketing with harmful consequences for patients, whether by authors of ghostwritten papers or in other ways, including the possibility of being struck off the medical register. Doctors should decline to accept drug industry awards, and specialist societies should decline to offer them. The Danish Society Clinical Microbiology Wait a minute. The Danish Society of Clinical Microbiology handed out a Wyeth Prize for many years, worth 1,300 euros, but decided to stop this and pay for the award themselves through membership fees. That's the way to go. All countries should have publicly accessible registers for doctors, collaboration with industry detailing the monetary amounts and other benefits. There is no disinfectant like sunshine. And in the United States, the Physician Payments Sunshine Act requires that pharmaceutical, medical device, biologic, and come in. See you soon.